everybody. Pastor Randy here. Welcome to Making It Simple. Always great to be with you. It's so great to be back. As we're jumping back into our lessons, I really enjoy teaching this, and I hope that it's a blessing to you because, again, these are daily life application lessons. Now, while, yes, absolutely, our backdrop is Scripture, and we're using the Proverbs, the book of wisdom, we're using it to paint a picture of the need for understanding discernment. We're calling this lesson Seeking and Understanding because, again, we have to understand the action part of that. Oftentimes in life, especially in the world today, it appears that we're almost conditioned to wait for it to happen. However, what we learn in reality as life comes by, you can wait a long time and it doesn't happen. And the problem with that is what happens? You keep waiting. We have to put action to things. That is why, again, we look back at Scripture and it says very clearly, seek and you will find. The word seek is so important there because that is the action component on me, on you. Meaning that if I am going to participate, we'll use sports because it's such an easy analogy. If I am going to ever hit a home run, well, I have to pick up the bat, but I also have to swing it. If I'm ever going to throw the winning score for the Super Bowl, I've got to not just hold the ball, I've got to throw the ball. And then the receiver has to catch the ball, and they have to run the ball and avoid being tackled. And we could go on and on with those analogies, but the bottom line is it requires us to do something. And so that is why the writer here in Proverbs chapter 2 is giving clear instructions. And so we ended off yesterday talking about where this points us to living in a way that is pleasing to God, living in a way that, again, is leading us to a better place. We left off from verse 5, and we were talking about then, and this comes after if. So if I apply these things, then you will understand the fear of the Lord. And we were talking about the true nature of what that statement means, and that once we come to understand the things of God, the desires of God, and how that reflects in our life as our relationship grows, we live in a different way because we desire to live in a different way. So that verse ends, and discover the knowledge of God. So again, discover, that is the result of the seeking, right? We look at verse 6. For the Lord gives wisdom, and from his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. All right, so let's think about this. The knowledge of God, what is he trying to teach us? But in order to be taught, we have to be teachable. In other words, I'm willing. We get back to that word. We talked about that yesterday. I'm willing to learn. If one is not willing to learn, it doesn't matter what you try to teach, and no matter how patient you may be, no matter how descriptive you may be, or how qualified you may be. You can have a PhD from Harvard, and you still can't teach somebody that doesn't want to learn. You can be an aficionado at an instrument. You can be Stevie Ray Vaughan. It doesn't matter if you're the greatest guitar player in the world. If your student doesn't want to learn a G chord, you're never going to teach them because they don't want to. All right, that's how we're wired. That's how we do. So if we're seeking the things of God, we must first be willing to find, willing to listen. So we see that he's giving the knowledge of God. And then we see in our verse today that he gives wisdom. Gives is a very important word because gives means it is offered. That does not mean it is applied. Okay, if you give me something, that is an offering from you. But in order for me to have it, I must receive it. We all receive and are given, I shouldn't say receive, we are all given gifts throughout our life. Birthdays, Christmas, anniversaries, whatever, all those things. Someone gives you something, but is it yours? Until you receive it, it is not. It is only offered. God gives wisdom. It is offered. How does that wisdom come to be? we see it in the next part of that verse, for it says, from his mouth. So what we find there is the vision of teaching. It is not just the words, it is the reception of those words and the application of not just what they mean, but indeed what they are. Okay, so it tells us here that he gives from his mouth, he gives knowledge, which has to be there before wisdom. It tells us he gives us knowledge and understanding. That goes back to the word gives. That is the ability to receive. And then what do you do with it once you have it? Because you see, wisdom, knowledge is just the beginning of wisdom. So we need both of these, knowledge and understanding, in order to obtain the wisdom. Because if I've not been taught, I can't learn. If I've not been taught, I can't apply. It'd be just like someone asking you today, read me some story, and it's written in German. It's written in French or Russian, and you have absolutely no idea where to even start because no one has ever taught you that language. It's not your native tongue. You've never taken a class. You know nothing about it. You've never been on whatever some of these Duolingo or any of these sites that teach you. You know nothing. Well, that's not because you're dumb. It's not because you're ignorant. You've never been taught. The things of God are the very same way. And I'm not talking about, understand me, I am not talking about simply listening to a preacher. It goes much, much deeper than that. One that is of right heart and true sincerity about wanting to teach is certainly someone that I believe that God could place in your life to help you, guide you there. But ultimately, that's on you. Because it all comes down to your willingness to learn. I have literally taught thousands upon thousands of lessons in my 24 years of ministry, okay? Every Sunday, sometimes twice on Sunday, every Wednesday, and we could go on and on and on for all these years, all right, and multiple other speaking engagements, whatever. But regardless of the quality of what I offer, or regardless of the animation or the humor or sincerity, whatever it is that I'm giving in that time of lesson, teaching, talking, whatever, if that audience is not receptive, it doesn't matter what the material is. Doesn't matter how good it is. If they don't want to receive it, they don't. It's the same thing with the things of God. And that goes back to the personal invitation of seek and you will find. Well, that's you. That is not based on you waiting on someone else to tell you. Are you willing to hear? Now, what vessel that hearing comes from may be a variation. It might be a pastor. It might be someone like myself that's teaching personally in my building where I work, or right here online, or maybe someone else. Maybe the person in your church. Maybe it's your neighbor. But are you willing to hear? But then we go back to the purpose of this lesson, discernment. Do you know what you're hearing? And is it true? That's why we need discernment. That's why we need the things of God, because it says here he gives. So it is offered. And he offers us knowledge and understanding. So here's the question as we start looking at wrapping up today. We are seeking. It says seek and you will find. But what are you looking for? You see, oftentimes we get stuck there. Oftentimes in life we have all these different things that come about in a question form. What do you want for this? What do you want to eat? Where do you want to go? All these different, and they require an answer to a degree, but oftentimes what do we initially say? I don't know. I'm not sure. If we're seeking the things of God, we have to pause there for a moment and ask ourselves this question. Well, what am I looking for? Am I looking for knowledge? Am I looking for answers? Am I looking for a better understanding? Because again, we have to separate trying to trying to tear it down from a theological perspective and understand, well, where did this word come? And is this Greek or is this Hebrew or who? At the end of the day, and please understand, I don't mean to be critical, but at the end of the day, that's not what leads you to a relationship with God. And I don't say that to disparage any teacher. But if what you are seeking is not pointing you to a deeper, more intimate, and closer walk with God, and what that looks like for you, then it's just information. And what do we do with those instruction books that come with things that we put together? Put them in a drawer, and they're there, and we usually don't go back and reference it unless something falls off, and then maybe we go to see if that part was necessary that we forgot to put on. What are we looking for? There was an old song, and I've referenced this many times in other lessons, U2 saying, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. But I think the real question within that question is, do you know what you're looking for? When it comes to the things of God, not only does it include the informational side of it, but the discernment of it. Well, I know what it is when I find it. That's where we get back to relationship, because God will make sure that you know. We're going to pick back up on this lesson. I know we're getting deep here, friends, and we're taking this line by line, word by word for a reason. Okay? It is not, absolutely not for me to try to impress anybody or expose any kind of great knowledge that I may or may not have. This is the life application side of this. What is God trying to show us? What is wisdom? And as we see here, wisdom is a person, a personality, a real issue that we're dealing with here. What is wisdom saying to me, and how do I find it, and how do I apply it? We'll pick back up on the rest of this tomorrow as we continue seeking and understanding right here at Making It Simple.